COVID-19 Vaccine Project by Fabiana, Arimad, and Ashley. SARS-CoV-2 is the virus responsible for COVID-19 that emerged worldwide in March of 2020. In an effort to combat the quickly emerging pandemic, the federally backed Operation Warp Speed was designed to produce, test, and mass manufacture COVID-19 vaccines as quickly as possible. Before the vaccines could be distributed to the public, they had to receive authorization from the Food and Drug Administration under their Emergency Use Authorization Policy, which allows unapproved medical products to be widely distributed and used in a state of emergency. Of the 10 vaccines backed by the World Health Organization, 3 are authorized for use in the United States: Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. Both Pfizer and Moderna are being offered as booster shots. We will begin by addressing the vaccines currently available in the United States, including their efficacy, distribution, and creation process. Pfizer-BioNTech was the first vaccine to gain FDA approval on August 23, 2021. Pfizer's efficacy was determined to be 95% during clinical trials and was the first to be offered under the FDA's Emergency Use Authorization Policy. The primary series of the vaccine includes 2 doses given 21 days apart and a booster dose 5 months later. The vaccine is currently available to anyone 5 years of age and older, and clinical trials are currently testing a variety of lower-level doses for children younger than 5 in both 2- and 3-shot series. Moderna was the second vaccine to gain FDA approval on January 31, 2022. Moderna's efficacy was determined to be 94.1% during clinical trials and was offered to the public shortly after Pfizer-BioNTech under the FDA's Emergency Use Authorization Policy. The primary series of the vaccine includes 2 doses given 28 days apart and a booster dose 5 months later. The vaccine is currently available to anyone over the age of 18 and has completed testing for children and teens between the ages of 12 and 17. While this age group is anticipated to be approved by summer 2022, trials for children between the ages of 6 months and 11 years of age only began late 2021 and is anticipated to proceed through the end of 2022. Johnson & Johnson has not received FDA authorization and is currently only given in extenuating circumstances such as an inability to return for a second dose or for allergy concerns. J&J's efficacy was determined to be 71% during clinical trials and was the last to be offered under the FDA's Emergency Use Authorization Policy. The primary series of the vaccine includes 1 dose and a booster dose recommended 2 months later and is approved for individuals over the age of 18. The J&J vaccine has been linked to thrombosis with thrombocytopenia syndrome, which occurs at a rate of 3.3 cases per 1 million doses given and has caused death. As of March 9, 2022, 10.9 billion doses have been given worldwide, 4.42 billion individuals are fully vaccinated, and 56.7% of the world's population is fully vaccinated. mRNA stands for messenger ribonucleic acid and uses genetic information to produce a blueprint for specialized proteins. In COVID-19 mRNA vaccines, such as Pfizer and Moderna, a harmless piece of the spike protein's genetic code is engineered so that mRNA can enter human cells and instruct the cell to form a harmless spike protein. When the body detects the presence of a spike protein, the immune system produces antibodies specifically against strains of COVID-19 with similar spike proteins, which is why the vaccines work better against some strains versus others, as mutations typically occur on the spike protein. Viral vector vaccines, such as the J&J vaccine, work by integrating a piece of viral DNA to an unrelated and harmless vector virus for exposure to the human body. In COVID-19 viral vector vaccines, the vector virus enters cells, produces a spike protein, and induces an immune response similar to the one seen in mRNA vaccines. Neither cause mutation of the DNA within the cells they enter, and both are safe ways of creating immunity to a virus.
Within the development of vaccines, there should be found the preclinical trials that are tested on animals, the clinical trials that are tested in 3 phases in humans, and then the approval process that involves the Food and Drug Administration, known as the FDA. It is more likely if the vaccine is not approved, more investigations have to be done before determining the dismissal of the vaccine that fails the FDA standards and cannot be administered. COVID vaccine process is not a regular process that takes years in trials due to the Emergency Use Authorization, known as the EUA, that I will mention in the next slides. For the development of COVID vaccines, first there's a discovery stage that the structure of the virus is investigated to understand how to create potential ways for an effective vaccine that combats the disease in the body. Then there is an investigational new drug application, IND, that a private company submits documentation which explains the manufacturing, testing, and other descriptive proposals that provide safe information gathered. After application has been approved by the FDA, the 3 phases of clinical trials begin looking for the approval of the vaccine. Approval is then given for the vaccines due to the Emergency Use Authorization, which biologics licensure application is submitted by manufacturers that provide a comprehensive review of the quality, safety, and effectiveness of the vaccine made. At this moment is where the FDA encounters by the vaccine adverse event reporting system that, for Johnson vaccine, there are being cases reported. Effects developing with a few days after the vaccine has been administered. That's why it is important to monitor the vaccine by testing large batch to understand any further side effects that could cause death. Lastly, authorization was given by analyzing the clinical trials in all 3 phases, but still, for COVID vaccines, there is a long way to go, with more research and innovations being investigated up to date that provide in-depth with demographic statistics. To understand how the emergency use authorization works is by a mechanism to facilitate the availability of use of medical countermeasures, which include the vaccines during a public health emergency, as is the COVID-19 pandemic. Only the use of unapproved medical products or unapproved use of medical products to be used in an emergency to diagnose, treat, or prevent serious or life-threatening diseases or conditions. Since there was declared an emergency worldwide, the FDA issued approval for Pfizer vaccine on December 11, 2020, approval of Moderna vaccine on December 18, 2020, and lastly, approved the single-dose Johnson vaccine on February 27, 2021, which were the only 3 vaccines worth the release without fully establishing their safety and effectiveness. There are many vaccines that could prove their safety and effectiveness, but others would show no effectiveness and or could be harmful for the public. I researched 2 failed vaccines. One of them is produced by Altimmune, known as AdCovid, which is adenovirus type 5 vector vaccine administered as an intranasal dose. This vaccine showed low immune response, which the FDA placed a hold because it didn't fulfill the standards and has not proven further investigations within the first phase of clinical trials. The second failed vaccine was from Merck, which was known for the same reason of low immune response in comparison to other natural infections or vaccines that were highly tolerated. Lastly, after 6.8 million vaccines administered, on April 13, 2021, the FDA paused the administered vaccine dose by Johnson & Johnson due to 6 reports causing a type of blood clot known as cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, combined with low blood platelet levels known as thrombocytopenia after receiving the Johnson single-dose vaccine. Later, on the recall, it was lifted on April 23, 2021, after several investigations conducted due to the rarity of the effects in administered dose.
As SARS-CoV-2 has spread, there has been an emergence of variants. A variant appears when a virus mutates during the replication process. These changes can make a virus more virulent or sometimes make the virus disappear altogether. However, according to the University of Maryland, sometimes a variant can be what epidemiologists refer to as a variant of concern, where it can survive better than previous variants. These are the current variants of concern for the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Alpha first emerged in the United Kingdom in September of 2020. Beta was first documented in South Africa in September of 2020. Gamma was first documented in Brazil in December of 2020. Delta was first documented in India in October 2020. And Omicron is the most recent variant. It was documented in South Africa in November of 2021. The most concerning variants at this moment are Delta and Omicron because they have shown to decrease vaccine efficacy and effectiveness. These are the findings of a recent study conducted by the New England Journal of Medicine, where they tested the effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine against the Delta and Omicron variants. You can see a waning of antibody levels over time with a spike after a booster shot in all 3 figures. In these figures, you can also see how using the mix and match approach to receiving a booster may be beneficial. When 2 different vaccines were administered for initial doses and boosters, there was a larger increase of antibody levels seen. Although we are in unprecedented times, the future seems bright regarding COVID-19. Scientific and technological advances and research has helped tremendously in the fight against this virus, and the newest strains have been shown to have mild symptoms, although they are evading vaccines. While I believe the future looks bright, many are rightfully concerned that an emerging variant could render our vaccines useless. Thankfully, the researchers at Walter Reed are developing a new type of vaccine called a spike ferritin nanoparticle that is showing promising results in its trial phases. It not only elicits a potent immune response, but may also provide broad protection against SARS-CoV-2 variants of concern, as well as other coronaviruses. It has shown to protect non-human primates from disease caused by the original strain of SARS-CoV-2 and induces highly potent and broadly neutralizing antibody responses against major SARS-CoV-2 variants of concern, including the SARS-CoV-1 virus that emerged in 2002.
More information can be found in the following sources for each of the topics discussed in the presentation.